Hi boys and girls, this lesson is geared for my students in grades K through 5. Hey, Talia, have you ever heard about the legend of the Blue Willow?
No.
Do you want to find out?
Sure.
Well, there's a story, or a legend I should say, that we pre-recorded that we'd love for you to hear. Enjoy! The Legend of the Blue Willow. Long ago in China, there lived a very wealthy mandarin. He had a beautiful daughter named Kungxi. The beautiful young girl was the promised bride of Teijin, a very old but wealthy merchant. The young girl, however, fell in love with her father's secretary, a young man named Chang. Kungxi and Chang would meet in a secret beneath a large willow tree and dream of their future together. Kungxi was a noble descent and Chang was a mere commoner. So the young couple, no matter how great their love, would never be allowed to wed. When the girl's father found out about the secret meetings, he was furious. He banished Chang and forbade his daughter from ever seeing Chang again. Kungxi would sit beneath the willow tree that had once been a place of joy and would quietly weep. Her heart was filled with pain. Not only had she lost Chang, but Teijin was a wicked man and a very difficult person to please. Kungxi longed to see her handsome young Chang, and her thoughts would fill with the happiness they shared while sitting in their very same spot together. As the day of the wedding drew near, Chang returned. He sent a message with Kungxi's maid to meet him by the willow tree. As Chang approached, he saw his beautiful Kungxi sitting beneath the tree. Chang rushed into the side and once more held Kungxi in his arms. They were so very much in love and did not want to be separated ever again. Chang and Kungxi finally decided to elope and get married without her father's permission. As they were starting to leave together, Kungxi's father saw them and chased them after the pair. The young couple raced across the bridge to a waiting boat and sailed away. A storm developed, and the boat sank, and suddenly from out of the storm flew 2 snow-white doves. Seeing the young couple's love for one another, the gods transformed Kungxi and Chang into the beautiful white dove. These 2 doves have lived on forever and can still be seen today flying high above the willow tree where Kungxi and Chang first pledged their love. Hey Talia, after listening to the legend of the Blue Willow, what do you think that sounds closest to? What story?
It seems a little bit similar to Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. Well, love's a powerful thing. For today's lesson, we're going to be focusing on line, shape, color, and pattern. A pencil, a marker, blue, paintbrushes, watercolor palette, water in a cup, and paper plates. If you don't have watercolor, please feel free to substitute with crayons or colored pencil. And if you don't have a paper plate, simply complete on a white piece of paper. Talia, so to start off with, you're going to take a look at your reproduction of the Blue Willow, and you're going to add specific details or specific symbols that pertained to the legend of the Blue Willow. So give me an example of one of those symbols that you see within the Blue Willow.
Birds?
Yeah, or the doves, right? Because that represents the 2 main characters. Another symbol would be perhaps the pagoda, or the trees, the willow trees, or the bridge, or the water. What you're going to do is begin by creating your overall design. So if you have your symbols, perhaps your doves will be here, maybe your pagoda will be here, maybe there'll be a boat here, because we didn't mention that in the symbols, right? And maybe your bridge here. You can also incorporate the fence. However you want to do it, it's really up to you, and it doesn't have to look exactly like your example. Just have fun with it. What's important is to incorporate your line, your pattern work that you see. You see a lot of different patterns within each object, okay? And be experimental with it, because you're working with pencil. Okay, so now, notice how Talia started very, very lightly, and then when she became very confident, she began to use stronger, more confident lines. So always start light and then gradually get darker with your pencil. Okay, so the next step would be for Talia. After completing the pencil marks, she's gonna trace it with her blue marker. Now your marker can either be a Sharpie or it could be a water-soluble marker. It really depends on what type of look you want to achieve. The Sharpie will not blend with water, so it's going to be very strong. The Mr. Sketch markers or Crayola markers, if you apply water to them, they will bleed or blend together, and that will act as a watercolor look. Talia, you almost finished now with the marker?
Yep.
Okay, great. Now, boys and girls, if you have watercolor at home, this is the really exciting part. What we're going to do is we're going to begin to build our pattern work and all the detail with watercolor. And the only color you really need is that cobalt blue color. Or if you have a Crayola set, just use the blue pigment that's within your palette. Now, I always like to prepare the watercolor by adding a little dollop of water while I'm pre-planning my composition, because it will actually loosen up the pigment that's within the case. Okay, so now, Talia, this is what we're going to start to do. We're going to start with a very dark line using your watercolor. But remember, we're using watercolor and not a marker, so we want to use the water to our advantage. So we're going to apply, you might want to look over here, instead of adding more paint, what we're going to do is we're going to dip it into the water and then allow for the watercolor to, that's right. And look, we're actually creating dark to light. And if you have too much water, just keep painting and spreading it. And this is a very nice result. Now, notice, Talia, what we did was we did not apply any water first. If you apply water first without the watercolor itself, look what happens. Don't you remember when we were spreading paint the other day? You noticed that it started to blend more effectively when you apply the water. So if you just apply water only and then add the pigment, look how beautiful. You get some really organic marks, okay? So have at it. Start painting your beautiful blue willow composition. This is where just record her, and we'll make it really fast. Okay. Well, Talia, that's really fabulous. You know what? I have a suggestion for you. Let's make a beautiful pattern around the plate to make it look more complete. So what we can do is actually, because this plate has indents, right? This is gonna make it easier. So let myself out here, I'm gonna just show you. What you can do is just drag your paintbrush around like so. And this can create a nice border. Now on top of this line, we can create patterns that we use or that we see in some of the composition of the actual plate, okay? So maybe, what do you see in here that we could replicate?
I don't know actually.
Like keeping it simple, just some very basic geometric shapes, like maybe something like a circle, right? Try it, make a circle about this size and maybe make a dot in the middle. And then just repeat it all the way around. Well, Talia, that's looking really beautiful. It almost looks complete.
Thank
You really did incorporate like a lot of the different patterns and textures and symbols that we see in the actual Legend of the Blue Willow plate. Wow, Talia's piece looks really great. One way to be able to make it look even more realistic is by creating a shiny effect on it. And you can do that either with Mod Podge or even a can of polyurethane. Polyurethane you can probably pick up at Walmart, but you certainly don't have to do it. So everyone, let's back up a bit. And I'll let that sit for a moment. And I think Talia's piece is done. I'll even hang this in my kitchen. Today's assignment not only incorporated visual arts and hands-on experiences, but it tied into cultural and historical connections. Boys and girls, please send me your pictures. I want to see what you created from this assignment. I'd love to put an online exhibition and showcase this in our Art Scholar Corner. Remember, boys and girls,
Always think outside of the box.
you know it.